Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. It's been over 15 years since saxophonist, composer, and educator Ron Blake has recorded and released an album. Now, in the last 25 years, Ron Blake has been very busy. One, he is the baritone saxophonist in the iconic Saturday Night Live Orchestra, as well as he's played and recorded and toured with the likes of the great Michelle to the great Roy Hargrove, just to name the many, endless few. But tonight here on the Pace Report, I'm honored to present Ron Blake performing music from his brand new record, Mistaken Identity. Now, this album was produced by guitarist and friend and mentor Bobby Broom. And tonight here at Dizzy's, you're going to see highlights of him performing with Bobby, as well as see my interview, which I shot with him at Sally's in Brooklyn. Now, we had a chance to sit down and break bread and reflect on the great Roy Hargrove, as well as we talk about his origins growing up in the Virgin Islands and how he was exposed to Black American music, as well as talk about why this record took so long to come out. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of Mr. Ron Blake performing music from his album, Mistaken Identity, performed live at Dizzy's, here on the Pace Report, here in New York City. You know, I have to ask you this question, man. What took 15 years to I mean, I know you've been very busy, but what took so long for this record?
It just came when it was right, you know. After the Mac Avenue thing ended, I needed to take a pause, you know, just kind of see where is it that I want to go, not necessarily dictated by what might be suggested or, you know, stuff like that. You know, part of what I was trying to do with Mac Avenue was lay out a series of projects that I could present in different markets, which at the time wasn't consistent with what, you know, they wanted, like, oh, they liked, like, say, Sonic Tonic, for example, so they were like, make another one like that and get some traction, like, and at the time I was working with someone that was like, well, you know, you got this organ trio, the late great Joey DiFrancesco, Greg Hutchinson, that's one thing. You got the Sonic Tonic thing. You got a traditional quartet kind of thing. You got this duets trio that's kind of eclectic. And then it was more or less like lay out the groundwork for myself to have avenues to perform and be creative, not just doing one thing. So I think once I started doing SNL, there was a transition for me. First of all, I went back to school, got my master's, and you know, really transitioned to being in the city for the first time in all the years that I've been here. I pretty much had been on the road that whole time. So then I had more time with family, with the kids, doing that kind of thing. But I feel like I was connected to the energy and how easy, how effortless it was to be on the road. Like, for example, like when I came off the road or things started to like really kind of like dwindle, I had been doing Christian McBride's band for a minute, you know, and then I did Michelle's band, Spirit Music. So I was in these contexts where I was really creative people, like really stretching out. But when you're on the road every day playing with the same people, dealing with the same material, it's easy to get into a place where things come to you. And making that shift to being sort of a, I don't want to say a 9-to-5er, but you know, I was local, you know, I had to be local, you know, for my commitment at the show, and then I started teaching at Juilliard. So then I was really like sort of landlocked. And yeah, it just kind of, it wasn't as easy for me to get back into the local scene too. You know, the phone didn't ring as much, you know, because it was like, oh, I don't know, I'm making assumptions here. But I think
you got to be on the road. They wanted you to be on the road as opposed to you having to be stationary, family, and then Saturday Night Live, that had to be, and I get it.
I think all of that though, in some ways, I mean, you know, there's an assumption when people see you doing certain things, certain gigs and whatnot, that, well, you're cool, or you don't need the call. And I probably should have pursued doing more things locally as a leader, but like I said, it was also a time for me that I had never really gotten into the whole routine of like, you know, getting up every morning and taking the kids to school, and you know, that kind of thing. It wasn't like an everyday, I mean, I was very involved, you know, but I was also on the road. And now that I wasn't, I became more involved. But being, you know, having the occasional gig here and there, I think, and I kind of felt like I lost my way for a while. You know, it kind of became more like work for a while.
I wouldn't say you lost your way. Family is always first.
True. I guess I was trying to answer that in the context of you asking for 15 years. It's like, I have to ask myself that, but at the same time, you know, I was energetically, I felt like there was a shift, and I had to discover how to get back into my groove around being creative in a different setting. And that took time, life, family, you know, all sorts of changes that were going on there before I really settled into a groove, which was probably, I'd say, you know, about 5 years or so before I went into the studio, where I really started to just kind of, I had to get the horn, and I learned new ways to practice or to work on things, you know, that were different from the routines that I had when I was on the road all the time. And I sort of retrained myself to find inspiration from, like, oh, I got 20 minutes here to, I don't need 3 hours to lay out all my reeds and, oh, let me try this mouthpiece today. And no, I need to work on some stuff. Get to it. Put a reed on, go. Once I started to get some momentum with that, you know, I got together with some friends, you know, hey, I want to work on this. I want to, you know, what do you think? Then I started writing more. Like I said, I went back to school, to NYU, and I got into, I was in the jazz studies area, but I was focusing on composition and on film scoring. You know, so I was interested in learning how to write and learning technology, learning Logic, that kind of thing. So those things kind of took me away in some ways from playing every night, you know, with the same cats. But once I got back into just shedding, like where it was just a necessity, like I couldn't get through the day if I didn't, like, even if it was just 5 minutes. And then slowly but surely kind of like built into a thing. And you know, playing more and more and having more opportunities. Like once I, you know, had sort of learned the schedule with SNL and with my teaching thing, I knew, like, okay, these are the times of the year when I'm going to be able to get out and teach or play, whatever it is. And once I, you know, that started to happen, it was only a matter of time. And yeah, it was about, I would say about 5 years. And it was never, the desire was never really to go record. It was just opportunity. It just felt like, okay, I'm ready to document myself again. You know, because I still had great playing opportunities. I mean, we did the Movement Revisited with Christian. We did the big band releases that won Grammys. I mean, I was playing. You know, but it's like, what do I want to do? You know, and it just kind of happened organically. And Bobby was in town, was going to be in town. Bobby Broom was going to be in town for a gig. So was Colby. And I said, you know, I'm ready to I just want to document. So I don't even know if the intention was to make a recording. It was like, I'm ready to document where I am now. This was like 2018.
So this is before COVID.
Yes, yeah. And we did the session, and we, you know, had to do a couple more things to finish it up. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just put out an EP and just with what we have and whatever. And Bobby, who was producing it for me, said, no, we need, you know, 7 or 8 more minutes of music, 2 songs, let's figure it out. And I was doing it myself, and I wasn't doing like any sort of like GoFundMe or anything like that. I was literally, so I had a little pause. The IRS had a little pause on me. So I didn't get back to it right away, and then COVID happened. So I didn't really get back to finishing it until January or something like that of 2021. Was when I was able to get back into the studio to finish it up, you know. But by that time, it was, I knew what it was going to be. I had some idea of like the sequence, you know, what the music felt like you know, and it was just going. But all of this for me has just been, you know, more about not forcing things, you know. I mean, I spent a lot of time practicing, but the good thing about that is that when you get into a situation where it's time to create and perform, the best thing you can do is listen to the people around you.
Right.
And respond. You know, you might have some ideas and things that you want to, you know, lead things in a certain direction. But the best music, I feel, that's just a personal opinion, totally subjective, is always going to come from what's going on with the people around you and being able to respond and incorporate those things organically. And I was definitely in that place when we went into the studio, where I wasn't worried about returning to the scene as a leader or anything like that. It was like, I just wanted to document
where you are at your particular time in life.
Yeah. So that's why it took so long. I mean, life just happened, you know. But it's a process for me, like spiritually, for sure, to get to that place of feeling like this is what I want to say. This is who I am. You know, this is my voice in the music, which I think I had taken more time to develop and find and have more confidence with that part of the music. You know, like my sound, my style, the way I wanted to present things. You know, yeah, it took shape, and I just let it evolve. I just kept going with it. You know, but strangely enough, I spent more time working on a lot of technical things and a lot of saxophoning when I practiced. Nothing like I play on the bandstand. It's really like I want to get better doing, you know, I want to master the instrument, right? You know, and go beyond that, like push myself, that sort of thing. But to be in that zone is like going back to the early days, you know, and reconnecting to when I was a kid studying the instrument, or when I first started playing, or when I first came to New York. It had that freshness to it, and you know, the eyes are all like, you know, you're just like hearing all this stuff, and I reignited that. But as you hear it now, is what it is. Yeah, is what it is.
Bobby has supported me from day one. A lot of musicians over the last 15 years, I can call up and say, hey, what's happening? I called Bobby a couple of times during COVID. We talk from time to time, and Bobby is a very special spirit to the music because, you know, Bobby is an educator, but Bobby has patience. I notice every time in his ensembles, his organ, or any ensemble he plays, he's very patient with not just how he plays, but he's patient with the musicians in his ensemble. There's like a give and take. And I noticed listening to this record, I like, you know, Bobby gave a lot on this, and you gave a lot on this. What's it like working and collaborating with Bobby?
Well, yeah, you pretty much hit on everything. You know, his sound and his style. A little bit of a backstory though is that you know, I've known Bobby since I was in my early 20s, so we've known each other over 30 years. You know, and he was living in Chicago, where he had been living in Chicago. But I think he was on the road at the time with Sonny Rollins.
He defected from Harlem.
Yeah. But my roommate at the time, Miles Hahn, the bassist, was working in Bobby's trio, and I was just out of Northwestern studying classical saxophone, but trying to teach myself how to play jazz. Glad I survived that. He told Bobby about me and said, you know, you should come to one of his gigs and sit in and play on blues or something like that. And I did. And that was the beginning of the relationship. Yeah, it's been since maybe the late 80s or something like that, you know? So we played a lot. We worked together a lot. I played it with his group. I had a quintet that he played in. Sometimes I would do piano, and other times I would have him as opposed to piano in the quintet. And then I would play, you know, we were doing all kinds of stuff back then. He was writing a lot. I was still playing alto primarily, which he loved. And I was trying to start playing tenor. He was, true story, he was not much of a fan of my tenor playing when I first started playing tenor. But, you know, he's working with Sonny Rollins and Stanley Turrentine, so I get it.
Kenny Burrell, yeah, I mean,
you know, he heard tenor saxophone. He heard plenty of good tenor saxophone, and I was just trying to figure things out. But yeah, we played together a lot, so I think that part of it, I mean, I think it's evident in the recording, in the way we play melodies together and stuff like that. I mean, it's not something that we really have to rehearse. You know, in fact, you know, truth be told, I mean, we put the record together in the studio. There was no rehearsal. Everything happened in the studio.
And also, sidebar, and you did this at the record release, you played baritone also on the record. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think of too many, you know, there's Art Pepper, there's Gary Smulyan, Jerry Mulligan.
There's tons of them.
There's tons of, but the baritone saxophone is a very different beast because it's heavier, and you're a tall cat anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, holding it for you would be impossible for me, who's like 5'4", 5'5". I mean, but there's a breathing technique that comes with playing that saxophone. Is it easier or harder for you to play it?
I mean, I think E flat is where it's at. I started playing Barry when I was in high school. When I finished high school at Interlochen Arts Academy up in Michigan. Did my last 2 years of high school there, and I played baritone saxophone in the big band for 2 years. And there's a young man, God rest his soul, you know his brother really well. His name is James Farnsworth.
James Farnsworth, yeah.
James. That, and you know, when I was in high school, we lived across the hall from each other. And I was doing the classical thing, and James was all about trying to figure out how to play tenor. So he played lead tenor in the band, and he had a brand new baritone saxophone. And he was like, you can use my horn for big band. You know, you don't have to use the school, you know. And that was the start of it. So I fell in love with the sound of the instrument, but and it just kind of stuck with me. When I went to university, when I went to Northwestern, I started playing in the saxophone quartet, which I played baritone saxophone in for 4 years. So it's something that, you know, it's been on the around, but I always thought of myself, like, once I like settled on the tenor and soprano, I thought, this is my voice. But, you know, as I listened to my speaking voice over the years, and I had more opportunities. There's a band called Yerba Buena that I started working with. I recorded some stuff with Michelle on Barry, and I played Barry in Yerba Buena, which would then lead to, when the opportunity came up to audition for SNL, it was for the Barry chair, and I've been playing Barry a lot. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. I thought it, I mean, I think it's a challenging instrument to play, but I think all instruments are challenging to play really well. Let's put it, I'll give it to you like that. I like to get up if I can, and if I could spend, you know, 2 or 3 hours to start my day messing around with sound and just commanding the instrument, airflow, intonation, just like feeling relaxed, so that it's more at the point where I'm relaying ideas and turning it into something here, and I'm not thinking about it. Oh, if I go from this note to this note, is it going to work? You know, and that's become more the case for me. But I would say that I hadn't done, outside of Yerba Buena and you know, the stuff touring with Michelle, Spirit Music back in the early 2000s. And there's some features at SNL too, but more like contemporary R&B, not a lot of, you know, jazz things. So I just was ready, you know,
to dive into it.
Right. You know, it felt like it was something that I wanted to document, because I mean, like I said, by the time we went into the studio, I've been at SNL for like 13 years or something like that. So I was playing the horn all the time, had been through like a lot of equipment changes and stuff like that, but really settled into a place where I really liked, you know, that sound, but hearing it just with a rhythm section. And yeah, I mean, I think any saxophone player will tell you, things are different when you're sitting in a huge ensemble with a lot of horns and you're playing baritone saxophone. It's a different thing than, okay, this is the solo instrument.
Right.
You know what? Right. And I wanted to explore that, and I started, like, I really realized that, again, the timbre, you know, the range of the instrument and everything seemed a lot closer to my speaking voice. So I just went with it, and it's turned out to be, you know, great. I mean, I'm loving playing, and I'm trying to find more material. But again, I don't just want to pick up the horn just to be like, oh, I'm going to play a baritone sax song on this set. You know, I want to find stuff that I feel can resonate with someone, that when they hear me play it, you know, there's like a connection there that is not like, oh, he's got to play he's got to pick up the soprano sax at least once this set. So, you know, it's not that for me at all. It's a sound, and I feel like it's connected to my voice, you know, the range of my voice. So I've just been in it. You know, that's been my little, you know, like when I get not tired, but I get like, oh yeah, I'm spending a lot of time working on this thing, on flute, or on soprano, or on tenor. I even play alto again now. It's like, yeah, let me go sit on the Barry and try to bring it home, like make it feel like I own it. You know, like how would I say it if I was playing on this horn? You know, that kind of thing. And that's continued to be the, you know, defining the music for me. Is all about the sound first.
Right.
So I mean, you probably will be hearing more Barry. I mean, if it was something that was easy to travel with, you know, I would, because I'm still going to play tenor, and I probably will add soprano to the mix again, because I used to play a lot of soprano. You know, so that'll probably be like, you know, if I can get in a car and go someplace, I'll bring all the horns with me.
I want to congratulate you. You are now part of the 30 Rock Orchestra. You're now playing with James Poyser from The Roots.
Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson show, but SNL is no small feat either, man. I mean, you got Steve Ture, you got Lenny Pickett. You're playing with some very
Leon Pendarvis.
Yeah, Leon Pendarvis. Leon was at the record performance release.
Yeah.
So
half the band was there.
Yeah,
which was
half the band was there.
Yeah.
I just gotta ask
Maddie.
you know, over the last 16, 17 years, you have played behind some very important musical performances on that show, man. I mean, what's it like playing in an environment like that?
It's, for me, I feel like a kid, you know. It is that exciting for me to be in the room with them, because we do a warm-up, you know, for the show. We do a lot of, you know, Tower of Power things that Lenny's arranged for instrument, you know, so killer Berry parts, all that stuff, you know. Leon is an amazing arranger, and you know, we're all encouraged to write, so it's been amazing. It's been really amazing, and for me, it's still fascinating to see every week that I'm there how the show comes together. I mean, I feel like I got to show up and do my part and make sure I'm cool with what I'm responsible for, which is playing Barry sax and flute primarily. That's what I play on the show. But just how by 11:30 on a Saturday night, no matter what's been going on as they've been putting stuff together, how they managed to, you know, turn out a show like that, you know, it's fascinating to see all the moving pieces in the room.
Right. And I'm just, you know, Lenny Pickett, like, he's held his own, because before that was G. Smith.
Right.
And then before that was, if memory serves me correct, it was, was it?
The first band was, I think the first band had
Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer,
yeah. Will Lee,
or was that the second band? Wasn't that the, you know, this is terrible. I should know this history.
But it's crazy.
There was a smaller band.
Yeah.
And I think that was in the years that Lauren wasn't there.
Right.
Like 80 to 85 or something. And then Leon came in then. But I think when Leon first came into the band, Leon Pendarvis was playing B3.
Right.
I think he was playing bass in the band.
And if memory serves me correct, if you watch those early Saturday nights,
Steve Jordan,
right. Eric Gale,
I think so.
Eric Gale and
the Brecker
Brothers, David Sanborn.
I think
they were. I mean, that band has had an open door of great musicians that, you know, and you think about those music performances. It's like you have the iconic writing of the comedy, and then you have the performers. But the music part has always been my memory. One of my fondest memories is the Ornette Coleman performance on set.
I haven't seen that.
I will send you.
Well, you know, I just have to go revisit, because I have there's a DVD set that they put out with the music of SNL.
Oh yeah.
So I just probably need to.
Oh yeah, there's an Ornette Coleman, which will blow your mind. There's a Gil Scott Heron performance that's remarkable.
Wow. See, and you know, for a long time, which doesn't really happen anymore, you know, there were also people sitting in with the band,
right?
Which doesn't really happen anymore.
Right.
So those are there's some special performances like that too, that are worth looking for. But I got to revisit. I think it's like a 3 DVD set, the music of SNL or something like that. It's called.
I'm gonna send you the link to Ornette Coleman. It's ridiculous. I want to talk about, we talked earlier about Roy Hargrove. And I'm 51, so my musical icons are gone. Prince, Michael Jackson, Biggie, Pac. I wasn't a Whitney fan. Sorry guys, I wasn't a Whitney fan. I was not a Whitney fan. Still am not a Whitney fan.
I don't know about that. Go revisit some of that though.
No, I know. Tupac for me. And
okay.
Roy Hargrove. These are guys that I bought from, I guess, from elementary school up to, you know, as an adult. And you and Mark Carey and some other cats played in many great ensembles that Roy had. And what does Roy Hargrove mean to you now that he's gone, and that his musical legacy needs to continue?
I don't know. You know, Roy was I considered him a really dear friend, and also my big little brother, or little big brother, because he was, in the music, he was larger than life. When he was in his zone, there was something magical about it. And, you know, I think that's a testament to what he did by looking at his discography as a leader, and a lot of the things that he collaborated on also, you know, that really set him aside from, and he's kind of set like a trend in some ways, I think, too, with what he was doing musically. But it's all there, you know. He could sit in the room with the old heads and play all night. He could play with his contemporaries. He could contribute as an arranger to some groundbreaking, you know, R&B records and stuff like that. He had his own project. He had the big band. The quintet continued to evolve stylistically, conceptually. I think I can't remember the record because I was listening to a lot of them right after he passed away. But there was one where I kind of felt like the quintet that he had, the last quintet that he had, or maybe it wasn't because Larry Willis was there, so it was not the last one, but was on that record. So I don't know how many records Larry...
I thought Larry was in the last... Wasn't he in the last quintet?
I thought... Yeah, but all the way to the end, I wasn't sure if he played...
I don't know if we got it. And now I have to go back and look at that, because I thought Larry was one of the last.
Okay. Yeah, see, I can't remember, because, I mean, you know, Roy and I lost touch. We went in our, you know, in our different ways after I left the band, but I always admired his ability to make things feel good. You know, he had a nice feel on the instrument. I thought the stuff that he did with that New Directions project with Herbie Hancock and Michael Brecker.
Yeah, that was a great record.
I really feel like he, you know, elevated himself, you know, as a musician when he played on, you know, when he was playing musically. And then one of his records, his quintet records too, that, I mean, it was just like, I heard it and I thought to myself, he had arrived at what we had been doing, like, you know, years before that.
And I thought that his reward was the RF factor.
The RH factor.
RH factor, yeah, RF factor I thought was his reward. I thought it could have gone so many more albums, but again, the health was kicking.
Okay.
And I think we kind of started to see the decline. But even in his decline, he was still putting out great music.
He maintained, yeah. And he adjusted, and he learned how to deal with whatever was happening for him health-wise, and still make music. And I think that's ultimately, like, if there's anything that I would share with people about what I'd like him to be remembered for his music, is that at the foundation of what comes across is that he played the room, and for lack of a better expression.
Sure
he played music. I saw him at I think it was Sonny Rollins' last birthday bash thing that he did at the Beacon, you know, that concert that he would have, and it was Christian McBride and Roy Haynes, I think. And Roy came out, and they just played quartet, I think, if I remember correctly. And
did Sonny have to catch up with Roy Haynes?
Man, those two, it was so amazing. But just, you know, Roy coming out in the middle of all of that and just kind of just providing, like, it was Roy, but it was like he just like, and he had that ability, man. When we were on the road, I always joke about this with musicians. I mean, we could be in the middle of Japan, like there's like one street in the town and nothing else going on, and we're playing some small like venue for like maybe like a jazz society or jazz club or something kind of thing, and we get done with the gig and we're packing up, and Roy would be like, "Hey man, I heard there's a session." And you'd be like, "A session here?" He's like, "Yeah, man. Some cats told me there's a session, man. Let's go play." He was like that, like all the time. He would go find music. We travel 6-7 hours, play the gig, play 2 hours, get something to eat after the gig, and he'd be like, "You want to go to a session with me?"
He ate, drank, and slept music.
Yeah.
Blake, what does Black American music mean to you?
Woo! That's a big one. Black American music. That's what we're talking about. All of what we're talking about right now. You know, the definition of that continues to unfold. We define it, redefine it. You know, I think it's something that's living and breathing, and I think it's something that has to encompass the present state of the music, you know, and how we as instrumentalists, jazz instrumentalists, incorporate those things. I don't think it's much different than what our, you know, forefathers, our leaders, the people that we look up to, our mentors did before us in terms of putting a fresh spin on things. And I think that that's, you know, I think that that's what Black American music continues to be. You know, it's something that is the heart and soul, is the essence of a lot of different genres of music that have evolved. And maybe because, you know, when you say Black American music, I think of like root music, and I think of the early, you know, music, the early history of the music in jazz and stuff like that. But I mean, Black American music encompasses everything that we put our stamp on because of our heart and soul, sweat and tears that has really built this country helped to build this country from the ground up. You know, that essence exists in everything, even where it's not recognized. You know what I mean? And I think that's what the music is. It's a force. It's undeniable. I'll stop there.
In your face. That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. I'd like to personally thank the talented Ron Blake for his time. Make sure you support his album, Mistaken Identity, which is now available on iTunes, Amazon.com, and all major streaming platforms. Also, I'd like to personally thank the staff and management at Dizzy's and Jazz at Lincoln Center for their warm hospitality. Also, a mad shout out to Mr. James Freeman and his staff at Sally's in Brooklyn. Thank you guys for having us out. Make sure if you want to go to Sally's, you can visit them online and make reservations at sallysbk.com. Also follow them on social media by way of Instagram and Twitter. As always, people, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as leave comments. Also follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Thank you.